You better watch what you say. You better watch what you do to me.
That was the music of Tom Petty. Now, Tom is a current rock and roll star and may not be familiar to a lot of the members of our audience, and then there are probably a lot of you out there that know Tom Petty's music very well. Over the past few months of our show, it's almost a year now, as a matter of fact, we've had a variety of artists, both on set and on tape. We've met at various places around town and around the country. We haven't done a lot, quite frankly, with rock and roll stars, and we wanted to talk with one and find out a little bit about what's going through their mind, and that's kind of the way I phrase the questions. Let's take a look at Tom Petty, because we caught up with him rehearsing for a show at the Met Center. This is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers in rehearsal before their recent concert at the Met Center. Like many popular music artists of today, Tom is over 30 years old and yet owes his livelihood to that curious combination of teenagers and rock and roll. Now, after the rehearsal, I asked Tom why he thought that combination, kids and rock music, always seems to worry parents.
Well, I think the best rock and roll is going to be a little threatening. If it's not threatening, it's not rock and roll, really. To me, you know, like that kid on Happy Days, you know, he has what they call a rock band, but you wouldn't really call it rock and roll, would you? I mean, it doesn't threaten anybody. I think if you're not offending a few people, you're not doing the right thing in rock and roll. I'm not saying that it should demoralize them or drag them down or anything, but I sort of enjoy the, you know, I would hate to see rock and roll become really, you know, socially acceptable. I think that would be wrong.
For Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, do you feel like you're threatening to some degree, by design?
Well, we must be, because, I mean, we've been in trouble for 7 years. I think we must threaten somebody. We're not trying to threaten anybody.
You actually was grabbed into an audience in a concert several years ago?
Well, see, on the one hand, I learned a lesson in that sense, is that I can't get that close. On the other hand, I don't hold it against them, because I certainly stirred it up in the first place. But there's something about when they're there, and there's something that this music can do. There's some great power in this music. Without sounding evangelistic or anything, there is a great power to it. And I think they just get carried away. So, and then again, I enjoy seeing that kind of excitement at shows. You know, I think that's what it's about. I want them to have that good a time, but I don't want them to kill me.
You see yourself ever coming to the point where maybe the generation gap might even hit you?
Oh, I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule it out.
And what happens then to Tom Petty, rock and roll performer?
I don't know. But as long as someone wants to listen, I think I would still do this.
That's great.
And probably for a few days thereafter.
You know, it was interesting in talking with Tom, it occurred to me that throughout, the 1900s, music has been a source of irritation between families. I mean, the flappers of the 20s certainly worried parents. The jitterbugs of the 40s certainly worried parents. And those of us who grew up with rock and roll, and Elvis Presley perhaps, and the Beatles, I can remember how our parents were a little concerned about that. And now we're parents, and punk rock and new wave is here, and I'm trying to figure out what that means. I don't know if you ever can stay current with and avoid the generation gap, and that's kind of one of the things we wanted to talk to Tom Petty about. Interesting fellow, and kind of a lonely lifestyle. One last thing that became very obvious there, he's very tired, and it's not uncommon for those fellows to wake up in one city, play in another, and then go to sleep in another as they're constantly out on the road. And they really developed very few friends. It was a lot of money, a lot of excitement, but kind of a lonely lifestyle too. Well, anyway, that was Tom Petty. We'll be back with more good company in just a minute. Stay tuned.